The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employees. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows.
This is the After Action Project, and we're bringing you the student's perspective on firearms training. This is the podcast that takes you inside the eyes of the student and the mind of the instructor, from practical to tactical, medical to legal, and everything in between. If there's a course for it, this is your fly-on-the-wall After Action destination. This is the After Action Project.
Hey, tonight we have Ryan Cleckner of RyanCleckner.com. He does more things than I can rattle off and name for you folks. You might remember him from an earlier episode that we had. Tonight we're going to be talking about There's Only One You, a children's book that Ryan has just published, as well as the Mayday app. But before we get into that, I just want to take a quick moment of silence in remembrance of, the September 11th, the terrible terrorist attack that we all experienced and has affected us all one way or the other. So Judson, you're coming back in off of a road trip. What have you been up to? Where are you coming from?
Just drove up from Fort Worth, Texas to Albuquerque to overnight with this guy. I was down there for about 5 or 6 days. I left on Wednesday, got there on Thursday, and then I did a 3-day class with 10 students, basic instructor, CRSO, for those that don't know, is Chief Forensic Safety Officer, and then pistol instructor on Sunday. And then I took a day off on Monday, did some personal stuff, spent some time with my family that lives there in just west of Fort Worth. And this morning, woke up bright and early, jumped in my truck, and drove 9 hours to Albuquerque. So that's kind of what I've been up to.
Other than cuddling with Judson, Andy, what do you have coming up, man? And what have you been up to?
For me, not a whole lot. I've been out the range just shooting with some buddies and stuff. I got to shoot some cool guns with one of my friends, Justin. He brought out a Moss 308 and a Mosin and all kinds of fun guns. That's pretty much it for me, just regular work and boring stuff.
How are you liking that ear protection? Last week you had some new ear pro, man. What did you like about it?
So I like it and I don't like it. I will say I usually wear walkers, and walkers sound really good electronically. The good I like about the Peltors is that they are Bluetooth. So I've used them on the podcast. I've used them shooting. I've used them mowing the lawn outside and just playing some music. So there's some really good benefits with Bluetooth on the electronic ear pro.
Yeah. Hey, Jeremy, let me go back to one more thing that I wanted to mention to you. Is a couple of 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, you recommended and suggested that I get a PA system for the range. And I actually was able to use it this past weekend. And that's spot on, man. I really like that the fact that I don't have to scream at the top of my lungs to get people's attention. And I can also play music through it. So on breaks and whatnot, I can sit there and, mess around and throw funny songs up there and have the instructor candidates or the basic students or the defensive students or whoever's out there. And I really appreciate that recommendation. It's definitely paying off.
Yeah, it really upped our range game. It was something that I was a little bit reluctant to go to, kind of like the battle belt. It's just something that I don't want to get just because of the perceived theatrics of it. But man, I tell you what, you have some older folks out there on the range with ear pro on, or double ear pro, even worse. And it really makes sure that they are able to hear the commands that you're given. So it increases safety. I'm not fancy enough to get the music playing through there yet, but I might see if Andy or if one of our younger guys can help us out with that. Before we get into the show, I want everybody, if you're listening, if you feel so inclined, head over to patreon.com/afteractionproject. Big shout out to Tim K, Andy M, Bobby P, Jared N, Matthew W, and Nathan P for supporting the show. We definitely appreciate it. And then after you're done with that, if you want to minimize this and head over to RyanCleckner.com to see everything that our guest is up to, feel free to do that and then kind of listen to the background, or you can watch and listen as we do this. Ryan, for those folks that either missed our first episode with you or have forgotten, talk to us a little bit about everything that you're involved in.
Holy smokes. I'm so involved with things. I'm so busy that I don't know if I have the energy to talk about it. I do a lot. I write books. We're going to talk about one of them tonight, hopefully. I wrote the Long Range Shooting Handbook as my first book just because I thought, you should write a book before you die. It might be cool to say you wrote one. And even if my mom and my best friend are the only two people that bought it, I should do it. And I wrote it, and every picture in that book was taken with my iPhone. I kid you not. And it took off better than I could ever have expected. And now I wish I took better pictures. And I like writing books now, so I try and do more. I know I owe everyone that's out there that's a fan of that first book, get the Long Range Shooting Handbook. Go check it out.
Buttons right there.
It has been 28 months now, and it's still a #1 bestseller on Amazon. So you guys have been awesome. I also do a bunch of online courses. Rocket FFL, I haven't been paying as much attention to, but that has taken off. Guys, this past 2 weeks, everybody's getting their FFL. I don't know if they're worried about the politics or what's going on, but if they check that out, there's online courses where my background as a firearms attorney helps navigate through the waters of not only how to apply, but all the background considerations, all things to do to be a successful FFL. I do Rocket CCW. I do lawyering stuff still. And now Mayday Safety is the biggest thing I took off with. That has taken almost all my time, and I'm glad it has.
I gotta add a couple more there, Ryan, because you didn't totally tell all of them. His podcasts, so 2 podcasts, Going Ballistic, and my favorite one is Trigger Words. And I was actually talking to Ryan before we started. I can read some more episodes on there because I'm hungry for some more knowledge. Anytime I get into a kind of a Facebook argument over the Constitution or the Second Amendment's my right to carry conceal kind of stuff, I always throw that link in there and say, hey guys, watch Trigger Words. This podcast will teach you something. And I've gone back and I've listened to episode 2. I don't know, probably 5 or 6 times now. And I'm sure I'm going to go listen to it again. So good stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, the good thing about having you on the show is we're not concerned about your level of expertise and knowledge. I don't think we've had that with any of our guests, but I imagine at some point in time we'll have somebody on here that, puts on a better show than they do. But seems like you get to, once you take something on, you get to the level of expert in a relatively short amount of time. Or it's that old adage, it's, an overnight success. And it's like nobody has seen the 10 or 15 years of work that went into it.
Well, here's the trick to being good. Perceptibly good at a bunch of things is find out what you're bad at quickly and stop doing that. So there's actually a whole lot more things I'm bad at. I just don't do them anymore. I can't play basketball. I can't sing. I just don't do those things.
So Ryan, do you know what the #1 characteristic of highly intelligent people are?
No, I don't.
They know what they don't know.
There you go.
That's the #1 characteristic of highly intelligent people and highly successful people at that, is they know what they don't know.
And I don't believe in, any phrase that you give or any euphemism can be taken too far. But when people say never give up, no, give up. Yeah. Some things are stupid, right? If you decided to go outside right now, Andy, in your house and decided to take on a bet with Judson that you could push your house hard enough to move it 1 foot west, I'd expect you to try for about 10 seconds. And I would hope that you would give up and go do better things with your life.
Maybe 5 seconds.
There you go. So that's my point. Is giving up isn't bad as long as it's the right thing. If you make a commitment, don't back out of your commitment. But yeah, one thing I like is you can't steer a parked car, so you can't sit there and wonder where you're going to go forever. Is take a step, and after maybe a couple steps that you take, I'm mixing my analogies here of stepping and driving. But after a couple steps, you might have a better vantage point and realize that maybe you need to turn left about 20 degrees. But I'm all about taking a move and editing and then making adjustments as I go. So I am definitely not a perfectionist. I'm willing to put something out. Heck, my children's book, I put out with a title I didn't like. I didn't stress about it. I changed the title and move on. And I never would have gotten there if I hadn't put it out. Or I could have sat at home and wrung my hands over what the best title was and never get it out.
Yeah, here's the other thing. Don't be a flat squirrel. Be decisive.
There you go. Yeah. Any decision now is better than the best decision too late.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that children's book. The new title is There's Only One You. What was it called when it first released to Amazon?
To Amazon, it was called Firearm Safety is No Accident. And before it got released, the title was Accidents Happen, and that was even worse.
Yeah.
But there's the lesson. I didn't care that much. I put it together. I put it out, make adjustments as I go. Matter of fact, in the long range shooting handbook, I actually put a passage in there that says, hey, I treat every course as something I can learn from the students, and I treat this book like it's a course. And if I can learn from you, great. So if you guys find something that I put in here that is inaccurate, or you have a better way to explain something, reach out to me and let me know. And if I agree, I will not only change the book, I'll give you credit. And right now there's a footer on that page that I think has 5 people's names on it. So I put the book out. Some people made some great suggestions. I made the changes and moved on.
So there's only one you. What's the age demographic for this book? I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and then any day now we'll have a newborn. So which one of my children should I get this book, if not both?
I think the 3 and 5-year-old. I have a 7-year-old where it's getting a little young for her. I don't think it applies as much, but the message is still there, and at least it gives you a segue to talk about gun safety. And I treat it like I treat anything else when I come to try and teach something, because I don't want to overcomplicate it. I want to actually risk oversimplifying something. So the message to kids there is not treat guns like they're loaded and keep them pointed in the safest direction and things like that, because 3 and 4-year-olds aren't going to understand or follow that. The message is for kids that says, you see a gun, get away from it and go tell an adult. Now, in the back of the book, I have a message to parents, and I'm actually disguising the book. It's not really a kid's safety book. It's a safety message for parents disguised as a kid's book. So you read it to your kids, and at the back of the book, it says, hey, note to parents, if you ever tell me, don't worry, it's not loaded, or don't worry, they don't know where it's hidden, you're wrong. And I explain that, and I give the actual firearm safety rules to the adults in the back. But the idea for the kids is, it was a little weird to put out, by the way. The long-range shooting book was easy to put out because I know that stuff cold. But the children's book, I had to make it a kid's book. There's a whole lot of I love yous and a whole lot of, it was a little more vulnerable of a story to put out there of the children in the book, which, by the way, those are my kids. So if you look at the book, that's my daughter on the cover. That's my son. That's my wife. That's me in there in the animations. It's a much skinnier me, but it's loosely based on us, as I made it as a story that as the kids go through each scenario in the book, an accident happens. That's a minor accident. They spill flour on the floor. They spill some oil on their shoe. Accidents that are easily repaired. And so the moral of the story as they go along is, hey, it's okay. I still love you. Accidents happen. Not a big deal. We can resolve this. And then I don't want it to be a firearm safety book completely. I don't want it to be, Timmy the AR-15 talks about gun safety, because no kid's going to want to read that again. Instead, it sneaks into gun safety at the end. So the last scenario is a kid encounters a firearm, and one of the adults reacts much more severely to that potential accident. And the kids say, whoa, wait a minute. Why did you freak out so much on that one? And the answer is, all those other accidents were things that broke, that can easily be mended or replaced, or spills that can easily be cleaned up. But an accident with a firearm can't be so easily remedied because there's only one you. And so that's where we got the title of the book.
Yeah, that's really good. There's a story, and I'll try to keep it brief with time in mind. So there's a story that I always talk about in our concealed carry class, and this was actually a student. We had a student, we were talking about child safety and locking up your handguns, and she said, oh, well, I have a couple young ones, 3 and 5, and but they can't rack the slide yet, so I'm comfortable leaving a firearm on the table even when I go somewhere. And I said, okay. I said, well, let's go down this road. Let's talk about it. And I said, how do you know they can't rack the slide? And she said, oh, we go shooting all the time, and I test them. I test to see if they're strong enough to rack the slide. And I said, okay. I said, when are you going to know when they're strong enough to rack the slide? The next time you test them?
No.
In 6 months? When are you going to know? And she's like, she started thinking about it. And I said, that's the problem. Number one, we've taught them how to rack the slide now. Number two, we're never going to know when our child is strong enough to rack the slide. And if Murphy's Law has anything to say with that, it's going to be the day that you leave that firearm unattended with your kids alone. So I think it's huge to have these gun safety books. It's very important. How many pages is it, Ryan?
24 pages. It's short. And also that racking the slide falls into the category of don't worry, it's not loaded. There's going to be a time where you forgot to leave the chamber empty. That's unacceptable. And if anything, if you allow the child to have access to a firearm and you say, don't worry, there's an empty chamber, they can't rack the slide, that then assumes it's okay for them to pick it up and point it at people.
Uh-oh.
Right? It's kind of what they're saying there when they say that. So no, I hope you guys agree, but I believe that a child should never be able to lay a finger on a firearm unless it's under the direct control of an adult.
For sure.
Agreed.
So lock it up or keep it under your control. I mean, come on. There are things that your parents thought they hid from you that you knew where they were at.
Yeah, the other thing I always say, and Ryan, if you could go back and edit your book and put this in there, I'd really appreciate it. But if you can afford a gun, you can afford a safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that makes sense. And some of them are very, very simple. You guys should make a list someday and add links so everyone can follow those to get safes.
Yeah. To all those parents out there that are saying that, yeah, my child doesn't know where my gun is and it's in the shoebox above the hat box in the closet, I want you to ask yourselves, if you were a mischievous child like I was, and I know he was, and I'm sure Jeremy was, I'm betting Ryan is, and I said is, I am willing to bet that if you think back in your childhood, think about Christmas morning. How many times on Christmas morning did you actually already know what Santa was bringing you? Because you mischievously found that little hiding spot where mom and dad were putting presents. And just think about that. And if you weren't that child, there are tons of those kids out there. So
I'm going to one up it too. You're absolutely right, Judge. You're absolutely right. But you have a safe. You treat guns safely. That doesn't mean that their friends' parents are going to.
Sure.
So I tried to make the book open to even people that are anti-gunners. I mean, I'll take their money too. For sure. I don't believe it, but even if you don't have guns in your home, I want you to educate your child because you never know where they're going to be when they encounter one. Matter of fact, the zero tolerance policy might actually be worse because you have it to where the kids are never around guns and you think, well, I don't have to teach them firearm safety because mine are all locked in a safe. That actually could be a bad thing. You should teach them what to do around a firearm when they do go to someone's house that has a firearm laying around.
I think that's critically important. I think that's a step that we all kind of take for granted as gun owners, and especially responsible gun owners, where my gun is always somewhere. If it's not on me, it's locked up. If it's not under my direct control, it's in a safe that only I have access to or my spouse has access to. But what about the gun owner that's been shooting guns his whole life and his uncle taught him everything that he needs to know about guns? And when your child wants to go hang out at his house or wherever else it is, if that adult doesn't have the gun safely secured, right?
Yeah,
what do our children
if they don't have kids? They think, I don't need to lock my guns up. I don't have kids until you're over there visiting some night for dinner and the kids come along.
Absolutely. I love it. So you have this other thing out that is hugely important. It's something that, I have and my loved ones have. It's the Mayday app. And I think it's the only app icon right there. I have it down here on my home row there because I have, just pages and pages of apps. The Mayday app, talk to us what that is, who that's for, man. And what was the thought process going into developing this app?
Well, thanks. The thought process that went into the app was actually the company is myself, Kyle Lamb, and our other business partner, James West. And we were sitting there realizing that in all these emergencies that we're encountering nowadays, which unfortunately some of them are mass shooters, we have a common element of chaos and confusion in that nobody knows where the threat is, what to do about it. They have no idea who got the message, who's safe, who's hurt. And all this chaos and confusion has been solved a little bit in the military. We had something called a Blue Force tracker where we could actually see on a satellite view where all the friendly people were. And if anyone needed help, they'd pop right up on the map. We started talking about even church shootings. What happens if a shooting happens in the main worship hall and the Sunday school classes that are a couple buildings away? How in the world do you get the message to them to lock down? And as we started talking about this throughout the night, we thought, wouldn't it be neat if you had an application that would allow an alert to go out that anyone could send off? Because the problem with every security alert system I've seen so far is they're all centrally located. You have to get the message to security first, and then they can send the alert out to everybody. But what happens when they can't get to that? What happens when you have no idea who gets the message? So we were, trying to solve the world's problems that night and decided, what if you had an app that every single person, so every single teacher and student, or every single person in a church or in a business or a family could just hit this essentially mobile panic button in their pocket that would let everybody know there's a problem, and then also allow communication through that app. So there was clear messaging. And then on top of that, you could have this really cool dashboard, like some tactical operations center where you could see where everybody was on the map and people could check in safe and hurt. And of course, that just went the way of that night's conversation. And the next day, there's the Texas church shooting. And we texted each other and said, were you serious? Because I was kind of serious. You really want to do this? Yeah, let's do this. And we started, and that was 8 months ago, guys. 8 months ago. 8 months later, we have a fully functioning, amazing system out there that I can't believe the amazing team has put together. And we now have it. So a school, the Parkland shooting, for example, that teacher saw the shooter a couple hundred yards away from the nearest building. And she knew he was up to no good and knew he wasn't supposed to be there. Her only option was to pull out her phone and Google the front office phone number, because we all know the teachers don't call the front office, right? So she had to probably find the front office phone number. And then if she did get a hold of somebody, what is she going to say? Nancy, I think that kid is back. What do we do? And talk from next person to next person. And then what do they do from that? Send out a PA message or a fire alarm? Great. They might get everyone to lock down, but then they have no idea who needs help. Well, with the Mayday safety app, that teacher could pull out her phone, tap that Mayday button 3 times, like Mayday, 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 and the entire school could have been locked down. I don't know. I'd say 5 seconds, but I'll give it 3 times as long. 15 seconds later, that entire school could be locked down just by the teacher. It doesn't have to get the center first. And then centrally, leadership can say, school shooting in progress, check in if you're safe. And then during the alert on the map, every person on that map turns into a gray dot. And then as they check in safe or not safe, they turn red or green all across the map. And you have first responders and leadership can see exactly where the threat is and exactly where people are safe and they don't need to go.
It was there was a shooting in high school, and they credited the first victim with saving lives. It was because the shooter went into the bathroom to retrieve his firearms, pull the guns out of the duffel bag, load them up, and get ready to do what he did. There was a kid in that bathroom who struggled and was eventually shot, but it was those gunshots that rang out that allowed the school to lock down as quickly as they did. So short of that, if there's an app, if only there were an app for it, right? Now there is, where somebody could alert the rest of the staff members. So it sounds like there might be 2 different functionalities for the app. Is that there's one for the school itself, the organization itself, and then there's an app that that myself and my family has that's internal for our communications and our learning situations.
So we try to tell people that what we sell are tools to help you control your own safety. So at the individual level, the app is free for everyone worldwide on the iPhone and Android. And if you just want to use it for yourself and your family, that's awesome. Right now, it's free. So you download the app, you can add your family members into the app. And if you get into trouble and you hit that Mayday button, everyone in your family worldwide immediately gets a message right on their phone. It pops right up as an alert. A siren goes off and it has a picture of where they're at with a dot exactly where you are. We even thought through stuff, which is where I think the military side of thinking helps, which is the entire app is black and the warning screens are all black. We don't want people lighting up their faces when they're trying to hide, right? So you have anywhere in the world, your family shows up on the application with the dot of exactly where they are. They need help. You can call them. You can get help. That alone, if that makes the world safer, I hope it does. God bless you. I'll use it. There's also a nearby alerts feature, which I'm thinking about phasing out, honestly, because so many people are using the app that allows you to see what's going on nearby. So you're at the mall, you can know to get out and get out of harm's way if you need to. Now, the organizations, they can then manage all those free users if they want. So like a school or a business can then use that dashboard to manage the free users that are in their system. And so you now have where I decentralized the alert and I allowed everyone to be part of the alert process, kind of like how everyone's a range safety officer. Everyone now can trigger an alert depending on what permissions you want to set. Like students, I don't think we want to allow them to automatically lock down everybody. So we have a little special system in there that their alerts have to be approved. But we decentralize the alert, but then we centralize the communication. Because what we have now is one teacher says, everybody get out. One teacher says, everybody stay put, and everyone's confused. So we now have it so first responders and leadership are the only ones that can send messages out and check in on, are there casualties? What's going on? Or the cops can now say, building 1200, you can evacuate. So we hope it helps save lives. It's taking off like crazy. It's taking all my time, and I'm glad it is, because I think this is the right thing we need.
I was I'm sorry, Jetson. I don't want to cut you out, but I want to get to this point. If you guys don't have if you have Showtime, check out there's a series they have on there. It's called Active Shooter: America Under Attack. But one of the things that they talk about, and they do a mini documentary on active shooters, and one of the ones was the Naval Yard in Virginia, that shooting, and how massive that facility was. And one of the things that every first responder that they interviewed is they didn't know where the shooter was. They didn't know where the victims were. right? There was a woman that was shot in the face, and she was able to get to the roof and was seen, right? And she was saved, but it took them hours, literally hours, to clear the facility and make sure before they found the threat, and then several hours after that to make sure that there weren't any other threats going on in victims. So if you're imagining an app where it could say this for that naval yard to have a system in place like this with little locations of victims, or this is where the threat is, how much quicker, when seconds matter, is this going to be something that gives you or your loved ones those few extra seconds that they need to live, or for you to escape? So that's, it's huge. I'm getting kind of goosebumps thinking about it.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah, the idea of the map to straight out of Hollywood, where you have that tactical center where they're, in the military overwatching a mission and seeing what's going on. You get that now. So a school actually has that cool map of their school. And during the alert, again, we don't track anyone's location. We cannot track your location unless you're part of an active emergency. So during the active emergency, when everyone scatters and you see the gray dots everywhere and slowly they start turning green or red, it takes zero thought process to see exactly where the threat is. And that's how we designed it. We didn't want people under stress to figure out, seeing text messages going by or things like that. We just want a map where it shows everyone over here is green and there's this strip of red, and that's where the threat is, and that's where we need to get help. So families can use it too. Like you mentioned, you have your children, you don't have to use it as part of an organization. You can just use it for yourselves. And not only can you alert only just your family, on the family screen, there's a button that just says alert family. You can let everyone in your family know instantly where you are and that you need help. So even in non-true emergencies, if you want to work this out with your family, where a child can just hit this button and let the parents know, hey, I'm exactly right here and I need some help, that's a really great way for them to, without having to pick up their phone and talk on their phone, to be able to tap a button. Or you can even send them a safety check. In the family settings, you can take any family member, select their name, and send them, hey, are you safe? And their app gets a little ping pops up and asks them the question, are you safe or not? And they can say yes or no. It was just so easy to be able to check on people's safety. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. It's, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, but for my wife, there are things that, there are instances that don't necessarily rise to the level of 911, right? Like, I don't need to call 911 for this, but is it quicker to get on the Mayday app and send out a Mayday alert to me, right? That lets me know that I need to get to wherever she is. If we're at the mall with the kids, right, it's quicker to text or give me a call, or if she's in a situation where she can't call out. So what are some other use cases that you have for this? On an individual level, the likelihood of being in a terrorist attack is relatively slim, but there are a bunch of other so minor emergencies.
A girl's downtown in a new city and she's walking around and she's starting to get attacked. Within the next couple of weeks, we'll have the feature where you can actually just scream out, hey, Siri, Mayday, 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 and they'll send out the Mayday for you. Matter of fact, mine just did it. I'm turning it off because I'm testing it. So you don't have to get your phone out and get the app open, because when you call 911, they have no idea where you're actually at. People think they do, but they really, really don't. We have a video we've shared of that where I think it was CBS Sunday Morning did a little special on it, where they went to a 911 call center and the reporter is standing there on his phone. He calls 911 and he asks the operator, where am I standing? And she gives the address. And he looks to the guy next to him, who's the call center operator. And he says, no, that's about a mile up the road. And he says, ma'am, I'm in your building. So 911 has no idea where. The FCC says that they estimate 10,000 American lives a year could be saved if we actually knew where people were calling from. So you now have a girl being attacked. She can hit that Mayday app and her friends, those nearby. And someday I'd love to have a call center set up. I don't have it set up now. Can explain exactly where she's at, even when she has no idea. 911 operator could say, where are you? She's going to say, downtown. I have no idea where I'm at. We now have a spot on a map. Or jurisdictions. Right now we're working with government agencies that are interested in natural disasters, by the way, that want to be able to send out an alert to an entire region and say, hey, everybody, are you safe or do you need help? And they can visualize then on an entire jurisdiction exactly the band of people that need help and then people that are safe.
Yeah, I think my question is kind of sort of in a way been answered, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper into it. So Ryan, as you know, I do a lot of training with, instructors and, churchgoers and school teachers and whatnot. And I actually have a church that I'm training this weekend close to my hometown, and we're training about 19 of their church security detail. And I've got multiple instructors and all that coming in. But one of the things they asked me was about comms. And can you speak a little bit to, and I'm actually probably going to play this segment, in that class so that they can actually, because the thing is, they don't want to spend a ton of money on radios. They don't want to be conspicuous where they have the little, thing coming out of their ears, coming down through a radio kind of thing, Secret Service style. So can you kind of go into a couple of minutes of how could a church security detail use this in their church, and they have a threat in the Sunday school, which is in another building kind of thing.
Exactly right. Yep.
And then how do they alert? Do they alert the entire congregation? Do they just alert their security detail? Do they only alert leadership? I mean, how does that kind of work in that closed environment?
All right. So first, let me start off with the problem statement, and then we'll talk about the solution. The problem with radios is not everybody has them. And then even the people that do have them, they may not have the discipline to use a radio the way they should be using a radio. So I give the example with the teachers. Give every teacher a radio, and you will have one teacher that says, everybody get out. Or let's say Sunday school security person or church security person, everybody get out. And then maybe the secretary of the church picks up a radio and says, everybody stay put. Now everyone's confused. And even worse, everybody doesn't have a radio because not everyone's going to get that message. And if everyone did have a radio, could you imagine the chaos of everybody screaming on that radio what's going on? So the problem with radios is, one, not a good discipline of messaging back and forth. And two, not everybody has them. And the other problem is that not everybody has them. So you have infinitely magnified the ability for people to send alerts when you give everybody the tool on their smartphone. So now you have your entire congregation has the ability to send a message to security, what's going on. You now no longer have 6 church security people walking around with a radio that you're relying upon. You have everybody. You have people pulling into the church in the parking lot to see something going on from the outside, can now alert and lock down the entire church without having to call and get a hold of somebody at the radio first. And the person at the radio can only get a hold of the other people at the radio, who then have to transmit the message to everybody else. So with the Mayday Safety app for a church, you can choose, if you want, to add everybody to your system. You add the users in the dashboard, and you can organize them by groups. So you can choose certain groups of people that are immediately able to lock down the church, maybe every adult. You can also choose groups of people that you want to have only the security people or leadership to get that alert so they can decide whether to lock down everybody. You do that right through the group settings in the dashboard. So now you have, heaven forbid, in the main worship hall, a shooting starts happening and somebody gets that Mayday app off. Everybody in the entire organization gets that alert. So buildings away, the Sunday school teachers, all their phones start going off. They dive to the door and lock the door down. There's no faster way to get the message to everyone in the organization that something's going on than just hitting that button and sending the lockdown. Then once everybody's locked down, any of the leadership can then go into that dashboard, which they can access from their smartphone. They can access from any internet-connected device. They can borrow somebody's phone and get on that dashboard. And they can see an entire map of the facility and look at all those red and green dots. Because after people lock down, they get the question to check in safe or request extra help. And now when first responders show up, if the first responders use the system, they're able to automatically join your organization and see your map and know where the help is needed, where it's not. And then when everyone's locked down, your church security can send messages. Yes, everybody, we have a shooting. Stay in place. We'll get to you soon. Then 5 minutes later, you can send out checklists that actually only limit their communication to the questions that you asked. For example, do you have any casualties? Yes or no. And they can only select the yes or no. So you see little pie charts fill up with that. So you don't see 1,000 responses. And you can get answers like that. So that's how I think it helps, is it gets the message to everybody faster than anything else.
I think there's the more we talk about it in my head, it's kind of spinning like a little bit more complex than it should be. So I think we talked about this prior, Ryan, about maybe doing some YouTube videos explaining each little details of the intricacies of how it can do. And I'm not saying that the app itself is difficult, because I think we can make it really easy, especially for families, stuff like that. And that's not what I'm trying to say, that this app is difficult. I'm just saying for stuff like this, for armed response training, stuff like that, if there was some small videos to where Judson could play, hey, this is Ryan Cleckner from Mayday, and this is how we set this up, I think it'd be a great
idea. I agree with you. I have some simple ones on there right now on our YouTube channel. So Judson, you can look at those, and I actually walk people through the dashboard. It's not as much training as it is kind of a sales video that helps organizations see, all right, here's what your dashboard looks like. Here's how you have the users. Here's what you can do with it. check this out. Here's an alert. Watch how fast it goes to everybody. So I have those things up there for sure. We found that the simpler we describe it, the more people's imaginations take off. I go, look, here's a way you can immediately let everyone in your organization know there's an alert. And then here's a way that is being in charge of your organization's safety. You can communicate with everybody and see who's safe and who needs help. If I just stop there, everyone else's imagination for their scenario takes off and they can figure out how it can work for them.
Hey, Ryan, so does those extra features cost? Is there any cost involved in that at all?
So the dashboard costs money. Yes, we have to make it a business somehow. I'd love to give it away for free, but if I gave it away for free, I wouldn't even be able to have the company to provide the service. So the app is free for everybody. And then organizations that choose to have that dashboard, there is a cost to it. And it changes depending on whether it's a school or a business. I'm trying to make schools as inexpensive as possible because I think the kids need to be safe. And then I'm going to subsidize that, unfortunately, on the back of businesses to pay for them.
So Ryan, what you're telling me is, just so that I understand, that the church that I'm training this weekend, I need to get with you off a podcast and say, okay, this is what they're going to do. This is what they're going to use it for. What's it going to cost them, kind of thing. Is it kind of on an individual basis?
It is. I'm happy to talk to you about it. But the idea is when you start to do drills, get it in place first, because then you can say, all right, everybody, we're going to practice for an active shooter. You ready? You go tap, 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 and everyone's phones immediately go off. Burr, 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 have an alert, and everybody now knows how to react. And then they get into place and lock down, then you send a message. You have everyone check it. They practice. Yes, I'm safe. No, I need help. And then you train your security staff to look at that dashboard and see exactly where on the campus the red dots are. And then you can say, all right, worship hall, you may evacuate. So you can actually test the system that way too. It's fully functional now. I'm still blown away that we've come as far as we have in 8 months.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. I mean, this is what it looks like. You just tap it. You have to tap it 3 times. That way you don't accidentally get it off. And then each time you tap it, there looks like there's a little time delay. Mm-hmm. But 3, and then it goes off, and it says we're requesting help. And then down here it says, I'm safe. Okay. And then it gives if anybody wants to freeze frame that, you could probably figure out where I'm at. And make me less safe or unsafe, but you hit I'm safe, and then it goes back to like it's normal.
And that's it. The churchgoers, you know what they need to know? If their phone goes off, get to a safe place.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, fires. So I want everyone to have the same response. You go to any school, any K through 12 school we have today, you can't burn the thing down if you tried. Right? I want even a fire alarm to go to this first. I want everyone to take that 5 seconds to lock down and then get in their phone and go, okay, what's going on? Then the message can come from leadership. It's an actual fire. Please evacuate. And then they can take their time to orderly evacuate. But at least there's clear communication, not wondering the fire alarm's going off. I wonder what we should do about that. Yeah. So the same thing for a church. Lock down first, react first. And the users need to know nothing other than respond to the alert. Or if they see a problem, hit that button 3 times. That's it. Now, the organization, sure, it could take some training to figure out the dashboard and what the groups are and things like that. But even when I talk to schools, I say every cool feature I just showed you, because I walk them through the dashboard, I show them how the alerts work and the notification receipts, and it gets all detailed. And then I stop and I say, guys, forget everything I just said. Imagine a teacher sees an issue and goes tap, 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 and everyone's phones go off and everyone locks down. Full stop. Story ends there. The entire school locked down and people are going to be saved because they did it. All those extra features are nice and they're gravy, but you have no better way of letting multiple buildings know that there's a problem than doing this. And we can still keep it there if you want to.
Hey, Ryan, How do we get this out there? How do we start getting this to where schools are seeing it nationwide? What do we need to do to make this thing really take off?
I'm trying, man. Absent doing a bunch of advertising, the full featured product is only complete as of about a couple weeks ago. So we're just starting to roll it out now. But the problem is we're buried. I'd love people to come to us, but we're buried. Our biggest customer is the state, putting it in every school in the state. Businesses, churches coming to us. I'm getting it slowly streamlined now, where you can actually, as a church, Judson, can go to the website and sign up and be off and running on your own without ever having to interact with anybody. So you can put in a credit card and be rolling in a couple of minutes. Spread the word. Do what you're doing now. When you add people to your family, it'll actually ask you to send them a text message to say, hey, Andy just added you to the Mayday safety app, download it here. I think one by one, we can do a good thing here. We have small town. We have places internationally. We're in so many countries now. It's amazing that are realizing this can be their 911 system. You have small towns and places that don't have 911. And they realize they can get cheap Android devices and can use this for an entire village to be able to send up alerts. And their 911 system is now more advanced than ours because they immediately get a dot on a map. They can see exactly where the person is, who it is, and get response to them.
Yeah, it just the more we talk about this, the more opportunities I see for this thing working. I don't know if far, and you could probably answer this, like reservations and stuff, Navajo Nation, these huge nations where they're literally hours away from help. I mean, man, I just see so many opportunities for this app. It's just kind of my mind spinning even more about, man.
Well, good. I'm glad. That's what everyone does. We've had every customer we meet with comes up with a solution we never thought of. We have sheriff's departments saying, wait a minute, we have to call every victim of domestic violence once a week to check in if they're safe. This is one recently to this. They said, you're telling us we could just send out this automatic safety check and they have to enter their PIN to let us know that it's actually them, that they're safe? They're just automating things that we never imagined. So I hope it helps. I hope it takes off. I hope enough people use it for free, but I hope that the whole world doesn't use it for free because it costs me money. I gotta get enough businesses to sign up to keep it solvent. So I appreciate you guys' support.
Well, I mean, this is huge. There are so many, and it's kind of surprising that it's 2018, and this is new, right? Not that and I think all great things are. People look back, oh man, why didn't we slice the bread always? Why haven't we always sliced the bread? Mm-hmm. It's incredible because it's everything that you've said, right, about the benefits of it and how it streamlines the process. And if you call 911 now, I don't know if, here in Albuquerque, with my full-time job, I will have to oftentimes call 911 to, deal with some people that law enforcement needs to deal with. And it's, please do not hang up. We will be with you shortly. And I'm like, what is going on here right now? Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you can imagine, during an active shooter type situation, a workplace shooting in a big office building, calling out for 911 to let somebody know that you're on the 5th floor in the corner and you need help, and not being able to get through. Whereas now you have an app that lets your organization know. And I'd imagine with something like that, there would be a law enforcement presence on site that's, could go over and look at the dashboard and say, okay, this is where we need to get help.
Well, they get it right on their phone. The SRO gets a dot right on their phone, exactly what's going on. Yeah. So there's other solutions out there. There are other people that have tried to crack this nut. There's actually a bunch of people out there that have security apps or software, things like that. But the difference is every single one of them were a security department person or an IT type person. So I don't think they designed the apps the right way. All their systems centralize the alert. Everything requires that the message gets back to the security office first. And then the security office can make a decision and send messages. I mean, some of the solutions out there are amazing mass communication systems. They're like they send repeated texts to people and repeated phone calls and emails until they answer one of them. And that's really, really cool. That's not what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be a way to decentralize the alert and realize that everybody's got a set of eyes and ears out there that can help be a part of the solution here. And we had, in the Belgian shooting that we had at the airport, we were talking to an airline that was using a competitor that said they had to send the alert through the system that went all the way back to the United States to the security office that people weren't manning it. And then they had to get the message and receive the message and figure out what to do, then type up the alert and go through 6 checkboxes and send the alert out to the employees to get back to the person that was in the hotel room next to them. It was like 20 minutes later. So we're like, what? We can make this simpler. Why not make it to where when they're in the hotel in a foreign country, they go tap, 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 and everybody nearby immediately knows what's going on.
It makes too much sense. It's awesome to see a solution come out where it's not the standard. You mentioned earlier that, anti-gun folks, but it's true. I think this scales to everybody. This is something that could benefit, whether you're a person that carries a gun on yourself every day or if you're not. I think it kind of reaches everybody.
Well, you're a parent. I mean, schools don't know how to communicate with parents. Yeah. Let's say something happens at a school. Now they, through the system, just do group parents, zone here. Hey, parents, this happened. Please meet us here. And you get confirmations on who got the message. Or you have districts now. I'm worried about a coordinated attack. I cannot believe we have not had a terrorist attack on schools because we've shown them how vulnerable they are. We've shown them how unwilling we are to protect them. And I'm afraid there's going to be an attack on a school someday, and there's going to be a coordinated attack all around it. So now a district can see all the blips going off on their map, and in one click, they can lock down every other school. They don't have to call the principal of every school and tell them to lock down. They can just lock down the schools nearby too. So why not?
Have you seen the documentary 3 Days in September?
No.
It's about a school shooting that happened in a small village in Russia. Over 350 casualties or so. The majority of them school-age children. Yeah, and I get worried about saying that. What you just said about an attack on a school, because we have. For me, it's anytime there's an active shooting or there's a terrorist attack, there's somebody somewhere that says, I bet we could do it better. You know what I mean? Here in New Mexico, they were, you probably caught wind of this. There was a little homeless shelter where the guy was training children how to carry out school shootings.
Yep.
In the indictment today that they just released, details on that they were training to carry out violent attacks.
We were putting stats together for our website as we're trying to redesign it. And I threw out a stat there to the group, and everyone kind of stopped and paused because they're talking about this many percentage of school shootings and this and that. I said, I have a stat for you, 100%. 100% chance we have another school shooting.
Yep.
There's going to be another one. The question is, are we going to sit around and just wait for it to happen? Or are we going to try and do something about it? Whether Mayday or not, you're going to try and do something about it. There's another 100% chance that there's a school shooter out there. Sure. Right now, there's a living, breathing person that is going to be the next school shooter. They might be planning their attack. Why are we going to sit around and become a soundbite after the fact and say, oh, we never thought it could happen to us?
Yeah, we had the FASTER program on, and that's, one of the things we said is, there's somebody out there already. He already has the tools to do it, right? And he's probably already he or she has probably already thought about how to do it, and they're just waiting for that last thing to push them over the edge to where they carry them out. And it's awesome to see a solution where you really can't say, no, we don't need this, right? Like arming teachers is polarizing, armed security guards, metal detectors, all that stuff is polarizing. But this is a simple solution that is probably relatively inexpensive for an organization, for a school. And I bet it would be worth however much it costs if it could, as everybody says, just save one life. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome, man. That's huge. I'm glad that you guys were able to get behind this and put it in action and get something that you said 8 months, right? Like this is from brainstorm to
from idea to fully functional solution out there. Yeah. We're just working on getting it adopted and working on spreading the word.
This is definitely not a government program.
No,
it was. I want to give a quick shout out to Rick Hennessy for subscribing to the YouTube channel over there. Before I forgot to do that. What else with the Mayday app, man? Is there anything that we haven't touched on the Mayday app? I think we've done it.
Even if there is, I don't want to go into it because I don't want to make it sound too complicated. Go download it, go try it out. It's free. I mean, actually, it's my biggest stumbling block, by the way, is that it was free. I think if I charged for it, people would adopt it more.
Nobody believes it's
like a perceived value, right? Yeah. So honestly, my next plan is to make the family version paid. So go get it now and get it free, and I won't start charging you. But just to cover the cost of the app and to cover the use of it, you have to put a value in there. So right now it's limited at 10 people in your family. You can set it up for free. I've realized that people want bigger networks than that. So I can make that happen by making a de minimis charge, $1 or $2 a month, something like that, just to get into the system to be able to track it better. I think might be the next solution. So I appreciate you guys checking it out and spreading the word.
Hey, Ryan, how many downloads have you gotten so far on it? Do you know?
I do know many thousands.
Many thousands?
Yes.
It's a great number. Great number. Good. And then is there a website for this specifically, or is it just basically
MaydaySafety.com. I appreciate you guys go check it out.
For sure.
Yeah. And if you like it, leave a good review. Those reviews actually help, guys. So give good reviews to the After Action Project podcast. Give good reviews to the app. Those things really help spread the word to other people.
That's awesome. So head over to MaydaySafety.com. And then there's only one you. Where can parents pick up that book? Amazon.com, anywhere else?
Easiest place is Amazon. Sure. Go to Amazon, and there's only one you. There's a few other books that it pops up because I changed the title so it doesn't come up right away. Might be easier just to search my name, or if you want to go to RyanCleckner.com, you can find information out there.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, I think that's all that we have for this episode. I'm sure that, with you on as a guest, we could probably go on for at least another day or so, several hours. So we definitely want to get you back on here with the next project that you undertake. And there was a question over on YouTube about another book. So once we go live, once you publish that, we'd love to have you on to talk about that one. That was I think that was Chris.
It's the advanced shooting book. I love that everyone liked the basic book so much. They want the advanced one. And I had every intention to have it done by now. I'm happy I got distracted by Mayday Safety. And guys, you think I'm busy. That being busy means I work the hours you think I work, and I just haven't had time to do it. So I'm sorry for you all, but I'm happy to have made the choice. Let's protect the kids first, and then I'll get you an advanced shooting book second.
When are we going to see these books on Audible? Asking for a friend.
Do you guys? So I started doing the basic book on Audible, and I stopped partway into it just because I wasn't convinced that was a book you guys would want to hear. Is that true?
I would.
I'd listen. Yeah. As a service technician and a manager, I'm either in the office or on the road. And so I'm usually, and I've done podcasts forever. I've listened to all the podcasts. We Like Shooting. All those guys, of course, is the main hub of the Firearms Radio Network. Now I'm getting into books. You know, I've read the On Killing by Lieutenant Dave Grossman. I'm almost done with Gavin DeBecker's Gift of Fear. So the next one would be a pretty awesome long-range shooting handbook by Ryan Cleckner.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
Ryan, if I do it, when I release it, all I'm going to get is 1,000 emails of everyone going, nice, when's the advanced book ready? I'm not afraid to announce anything now because that's what everyone comes back with.
Yep.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm literally in my car. I mean, like I put 3 times the miles on my truck than almost every other person out there. I mean, I'm constantly on the road. So I don't have the time when I get to hotel rooms and classrooms and ranges to sit there and break open a book. But I can sit in front of a dashboard and a windshield for 10 hours a day. So, yeah, I would absolutely be a candidate for listening to your audiobook.
All right, I'll have to figure out, because there's a few graphs and diagrams. I'll have to figure out a way to talk my way through it. And I might be one of those audiobooks. Already I've done this in the few chapters I've recorded. I kind of go off the rails. I read the book, and then I stop and give a bunch of little side tips, which I think people might like better anyway.
As you don't have enough time already, just saying.
All right.
As somebody who, that's primarily how I consume my books, is through Audible. There are other authors out there that do that, and that's a huge benefit for the listener. It's all the stuff that you've oh man, I wish I would have said this in the book, but now you can actually say it. So hopefully that answers Kevin's question. We said we want to talk about that, and we did. So huge shout out to everybody for jumping on. Jarrett, Kevin, John, Chris, David, everybody who sent out some comments and questions. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And as always, Ryan, it was a blast having you on. I think we've been on here 45 minutes or so, and it feels like it was nothing. So definitely looking forward to having you come on next month when you release that other book, right?
Right. I appreciate you guys. Spread the word, everybody. That's how you can help.
Awesome. Y'all have a great night. Stay safe. Remember, it's your life. It's your safety and protection. It's your responsibility. Man, we really hope you enjoyed listening to that episode as much as we did interviewing and having our guests on. Be sure to share this with your friends and family and head over to patreon.com/afteractionproject. We'd love to have you on as a guest panelist, and be sure to check out those other rewards that we have for our Patreons.
If you're a recent graduate of a firearms-related training course and would like to join us on our show, or if you'd like us to review a specific firearm-related training course or instructor, shoot an email to show@afteractionproject.com. Remember to join a local firearms advocacy organization. As always, stay safe, shoot straight, and remember to secure your firearms so that unauthorized persons cannot gain access to them.